This is the Greg Bedard Patriots Podcast with Nick Cattles.
For the second straight podcast. I don't know what the hell was going on before we joined all of you, but here we are. The old get out of the Zoom, get back into the Zoom work. It's the Greg Bedard Patriots Podcast with Nick Cattles. Let me run through a number of things here first before I get into the football game with Greg. Number one, brought to you by FanDuel, exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Plus, all customers who bet $5 will get $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. And if anybody follows me on Twitter at Nick C Radio, I took a picture last Sunday of my setup at home. I have the YouTube multi-view on the big TV and then the two local games on the other two TVs. I had 6 NFL games blasting in my face at 1 o'clock on Sunday. It is fantastic. The setup is great. You should check it out. That deal, by the way, is over on September 18th. So you want to take advantage of that ASAP. Also, Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit, factormeals.com/Bedard50. Use the code Bedard50 to get 50% off. Kelly had the shredded chicken taco bowl earlier tonight. She was a fan. She wanted me to pass that along. And finally, OddsR, an app that combines AI and machine learning to suggest smart sports bets. Get your first 30 days off the app free. Just go to oddsr.com again /Bedard to download the app. That's oddsr.com /Bedard. Okay. Now that the business part of this podcast is taken care of for now, let's get to the football part of the podcast, the content part. First, Greg, obviously Eagles beat Patriots 25-20 at Gillette Stadium on Sunday. Just your overall thoughts from 30,000 feet watching this game, I'm sure by now, multiple times.
Yeah, Nick, overall, especially if I was a Patriots fan, I would be encouraged about what happened on Sunday. We can get into the end result and why certain things happen or seem to keep happening to this team. But in general, I thought that you could make the argument that in all three phases, the Patriots outplayed the Eagles, the defending NFC champions, which, certainly sounds good on paper. And I think that was real. I think that if you matched it up, I thought the Patriots defense played better than the Eagles defense. And I thought the Patriots offense played better than the Eagles offense. And I thought the Patriots special teams won, fairly handily outside of, Jake Elliott apparently has a robot leg that can kick from anywhere. But, I thought that the Patriots were a lot more competitive than I thought they were going to be. Now, did I think that Bill O'Brien was going to have a really good game plan to negate the heavy advantage that, especially once we got to game day and we found out that Cole Strange was down, Mike Owenu was down, meaning, 2 mid-round rookies and Calvin Anderson, we're going to have to start at guard, Calvin Anderson at right tackle. So obviously the Patriots coaches knew most of the week what they had to deal with, and Bill O'Brien crafted the type of game plan that would mitigate that as much as possible, would allow them to move the ball at times, to be competitive. And as long as the defense did their part, then the Patriots would be in the game in the fourth quarter, and that's what happened. The defense was more than competitive. I think they did a really nice job in this game. So look, I think, big picture, definitely encouraging. Did it make me think that, all right, my 7-11 prediction or 7-10 prediction might have been wrong? Well, especially in light of the Aaron Rodgers news. Yes. But for me, and you don't have to feel this way. As a fan, you don't have to feel this way. But I wouldn't get uber excited about anything that you see in week one way or the other, just because, especially the way teams approach training camps now, the way they approach preseason, week one can, not always, can be sort of an outlier. Like look at the Cincinnati Bengals last year. They lost to Mitch Trubisky and the Steelers with Joe Burrow throwing 4 picks and fumbling a ball, and and they were fine. And Joe Burrow was hot garbage on Sunday because he didn't do anything in the preseason. Do I think that's going to hold up? No. So, I wouldn't go nuts, but I definitely I left the stadium and also watching the film a lot more encouraged about the Patriots.
And watching the film is the most important part. And we'll get into a lot of that with Greg because he does watch the film. He watches it multiple times. He watches TV copy. He watches the All-22. He watches it live in person when it's at Gillette Stadium. So he's had his eyes on this game an awful lot. And when Greg says after watching the film he was encouraged, that means a hell of a lot more than Greg saying I was encouraged in the moment watching these guys live at Gillette Stadium. Look, I agree with you, Greg, and I'm not going to go over the top here. But I do look at that game and I could play the old radio trick. What if I told you? I mean, what if I told you that the guys that were out were out? What if I told you this game would start the way it started in the first quarter? So many different circumstances, the drops, Booty not getting his feet in, all of those different things that they couldn't run the ball. If I told you that before this game, you would think the Patriots would lose by 2 or 3 touchdowns. And so I think the fact that they were competitive, they had a chance to win this game a couple of times in the fourth quarter. I do think fans should be allowed, if some of the media here in Boston will allow them, should be allowed to take some positives out of a loss, God forbid. I think that was a competitive football game. Mm-hmm. And all last week we heard, that Philly was above and beyond and they were just going to take out the Patriots. And that's if the Patriots were healthy and everything was going great for them. People thought that the Eagles would win by possibly double digits. So yes, I agree with you. What ultimately cost them, Greg?
They've fallen in a 16-0 hole. And then, also that this offense, for whatever reason, and I'm not ready to say it's Mac Jones, even though plenty of people want to say it, they just come up short. They're just not consistent enough. Like Mac Jones, and Mac Jones is part of it. He is. I thought overall he played really well in this game. He made 5 or 6 ridiculous throws. Off the top of my head, the 3 touchdown passes were all tremendous. Timing, perfectly placed. Love to see it. Deciphering the defense. It's, for the most part, Bill O'Brien got him back playing like Mac Jones. He had confidence in the operation, the play calls. Do I think, he didn't have a ton of confidence in the offensive line, especially early. It's understandable. But just, and I just want to continue on with the good throws. The one to Kendrick Bourne, 3rd and 12, that he threw over in the middle while getting plastered. Kendrick Bourne has to catch that ball. The ball was in a perfect place where only he could catch it. Should have converted. Kayshon Boutte, the 2 throws to him, 3rd down and 4th down were good throws. Bad plays by the receiver. For a rookie, you can understand it. But there are also miscues. The pick 6, and I wasn't sure about the whole route combination thing. It looked a little weird to me, but I asked somebody who knows. Max screwed up. Now was the spacing perfect? Was the spacing perfect all day with some of the new guys, Gesicki and Juju Smith-Schuster? Kendrick Bourne, it's a constant issue for him. No. And on that play, Kendrick Bourne could have let his return route breathe a little bit more, but there was no pressure on Mac Jones. I was told that Mac needs to let the Y shake, which is the tight end, Mike Gesicki, is doing what's called a shake route where he looks outside and then fakes outside, goes inside. And Mac didn't let that clear out if he was going to go to Kendrick Bourne. And he sort of rushed it and kind of threw it in between 2 people. And, so I'm not gonna bury him for a mistake early, even though in some of these games you worry about the starts that he started to accumulate over the course of his career. Some of them are really shaky. He just has these sort of brain farts, rush decisions. There was the pass in the flat later on in the game that almost got picked off. Like there was the screen pass that almost got picked off by Josh Sweat. Like I don't expect him to be perfect all the time. I just expect him to be clutch. And I just think he and the offense collectively, it wasn't just Mac Jones. I don't mean to dump on him, but falling behind 16-0 was huge. But then at the end of the day, thanks to the defense, they had 6 drives after halftime where they were down no more than 8 points. They couldn't get anything until, they had the one touchdown. They had five drives in this game that started at their own 43 or better, and they punted all 5 times. Like, it's not on just the quarterback, but at a certain point in time, you look at Mac's career to this point, he hasn't gotten it done. I'm not ready to say it's a pattern that he can't do it. I've been through this before with young players, but at some point in time, he's got to take the next step. And you look at Bill O'Brien's operation, you figure the offensive line is going to get healthy, the running game is going to be a factor, the weapons for the most part are good enough. At some point this season, Mac's got to step up and he's got to make the plays to win a game like that. They're not winning. They haven't won those games since Tom left. They have to collectively figure out a way to do it.
I was going to get into my Mac stuff later, but I might as well just dive in right now. I have about a billion thoughts. I'll keep it short, though, here. Overall, I had Mac as about a B- or so. A passing grade. A passing grade. There's this tit for tat about Mac. There's several layers to this, Greg. You and I could do 5 hours on just Mac Jones and how he's handled by fans, how he's handled by the media. And, first of all, I'm glad you said, Greg, he's not going to be perfect. And if people are waiting for him to be perfect, you're waiting for Godot. It ain't going to happen. That's an old ass reference. Hopefully some of you got it. You're just going to be sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting. If you're waiting for him to be Tom Brady, again, you'll be waiting until you drop dead. It's not going to happen. And I think some people, and it's not most people, but some people have to stop if it was Tom Brady, get away from it. You can't compare the greatest of all time to a guy that Greg and I have talked about is probably at best ranked 12 to 15 in the NFL. You can't do it. It's delusional to bring up Brady's name in the conversation with Mac Jones. It's delusional. Now, as far as Sunday, look, he made some bad throws. He made some bad decisions. And I think you have to live with some of those bad throws. What he has to limit are the turnover-worthy throws. And that's what we're talking about. The pick 6, the pick that Sweat should have had. There was another pass, which I don't really kill him for. It was the pass to Douglas. He did get it over the defender. I thought it was actually a pretty decent throw. It was a dangerous throw, but he got it over the DB. So I'm not going to dock him or kill him on that throw. But of course, he's going to miss throws. He's going to miss a sideline throw downfield to Kayshon Boutte, every once in a while. He's going to miss throws. Every quarterback in the league misses throws, from Josh Allen to Joe Burrow to Patrick Mahomes. All of them miss throws. You just have to limit the turnover-worthy throws. That's got to be his main focus. The other thing, Greg, that's driving me ever-loving crazy about the game when people are talking about this, and I talked about this a little bit with my pod the last couple of days, but what's driving me absolutely nuts is this narrative, and there was a little bit of a back and forth with me and somebody on Twitter today, of they gave Mac Jones multiple chances to win the game and he failed again. Or, he just can't get the job done. I am sorry that Mac Jones wasn't absolutely pristine in the fourth quarter. However, you look at those 6 possessions that Greg brought up post halftime. The first possession was murdered by Kayshon Boutte for not keeping his feet in bounds. That's a good throw down the sideline. He keeps his feet in bounds. You now carry that momentum over from the second quarter. That stops the drive. It was 3rd and long. Mac made that throw. Kendrick Bourne, 3rd and 12. Greg hit it. That is a great throw. Under duress, between 2 Eagles, a tight window. And he hits Bourne right in the breadbasket, and Bourne drops it. That's on 3rd and 12, a must-have play. And your quarterback stood in the pocket, staring down the barrel, took the pressure, and delivered a perfect football. 4th and 12, final play of the game. It's a good throw by Mac Jones. If Boutte, again, remembers he's not at LSU anymore playing against the SEC, and toe taps and gets his feet in. So, what drives me crazy is, yes, I will bring up the negative plays, but I will also bring up the great throws that he made late in this game that could have resulted in a win if his teammates helped him. So the idea that he just peed down his leg in the fourth quarter and was looking around and throwing the football in the 3rd row, that's not what happened. There was some not so good, but there was also some very good. And if you ask me, 2 of the passes that he needed to make, the 2 most important passes of the game, he made them. 3rd and 12 to Bourne, he made that throw. 4th and 12 to Booty, he made that throw. If one of those 2 guys catches the football, we could be talking about the Patriots winning this game. And
yeah, Nick, one just to give you a little bit more ammunition. I mean, 4th and 3, they go for it. Juju Smith-Schuster runs the wrong route. Like, I mean, if he just runs the right route, which is simple, and we've seen Julian Edelman and Wes Welker do it time and time again. Mac was waiting for him to run the right route. He doesn't do it, and that stuff goes on all the time in this offense.
We have to, Greg, I'm a big fan of this. Context matters. And when we talk about all the players, I will give you all the context. I've told you, I agree mostly with Greg when we've had Mac Jones conversations. I think he's an average to slightly above average starting quarterback. So that's what I anticipate going in on Sundays. If you're anticipating an A-plus performance, you're going to be disappointed 95% of the time. Because if you're going to get that kind of performance consistently from him, guess what? Mac Jones is a top 5 quarterback in the league. And that's not who he is. That's a you problem. That's a Felger problem. And everybody else who criticizes everything the guy does, that's their problem. Because you're asking more of Mac Jones and what he's capable of. That's on you. That's not on him. Now, context matters when you say Devontae Parker was out of this game. The guy who Greg and many others will tell you had probably the best camp out of all the receivers, minus maybe Demario Douglas. Parker's out of the game. Juju Smith-Schuster, for whatever reason, played just over 50% of the snaps in this game. He was not out there in the 2-minute offense. You tell me why, right? So you have Juju out there for about 50% of the time. You've got Kayshon Boutte taking 55 snaps in this game on Sunday. Who predicted that happening? 55 snaps. You have the best offensive lineman on your team out. You have your other guard out. You have 2 rookie guards in. You have inclement weather to start this game. Oh, and by the way, you can't run the football at all. You tell me how many quarterbacks, if you take away their number 1 receiver, the guy who's supposed to be the 2 receiver plays 50% of the snaps, has 2 rookie guards starting on the offensive line, has to deal with awful weather and absolutely 0 run game. Oh, and by the way, also working with a new coordinator, his 3rd offensive coordinator in 3 years. How many quarterbacks week 1 would go out there and give you an A++? That's all I'm saying. Let's keep it real. Let's keep it honest. I know we got content. I deliver content. I deliver honest content. So if we want to look at what Mac did on Sunday, is it not fair to sit there and tell you, it's funny. Everybody complained about Brady's lack of weapons. And every time Brady had something that was a little bit under average as far as players around him or issues with the team, it was always everybody else, right? But now because it's Mac, it's like you're excusing him for having a B- performance. No, these are reasons why any starting quarterback would not be excellent on Sunday. B-. He got an F grade in the first quarter. I gave him an A+ in the second quarter when the dude went bananas. And then in the second half, I thought he hovered around a B- to a B. So I thought it was a B-. And by the way, Greg, I don't know if you would agree, and I know we're going to get into this in a little bit. I thought he outplayed Jalen Hurts. And if you tell me that Mac Jones outplays the other quarterback for the vast majority of this season, given this schedule, you have to feel pretty good about Mac Jones going into the future. You have to.
Yeah. Let's get into that in a second. Let's take a quick break from our sponsors.
I went long. I went on a rant. So let's hear from our friends at FanDuel, and then we'll get back to it. And I promise I'll give Greg some breath here.
Get ready for the NFL season with incredible offers from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. I love those little suckers. I use them all the time, especially now the football season's coming up. Just use them all the time. It's free money, and you can make money off it. Plus, all customers who bet $5 will get $100 off Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. By the way, I did this. I placed a few early season, what I guess you would call seasonal NFL bets.
Yeah.
And there
Some
popped
futures?
up right into my email. Yeah, some futures popped up right into my email. $100 off YouTube. And that's where you're going to get Sunday Ticket this year. Not on your TV, or you're going to need it through YouTube. That's the only place to get it this year. So visit FanDuel.com/Boston and kick off the NFL season with an offer you won't want to miss. FanDuel, the official partner of NFL. So,
all right,
you know,
you want me to lead off, or you want to lead off?
I'll lead off. So, Nick, I don't necessarily, disagree with you. I don't get into the whole outplayed Jalen Hurts thing. Like, we'll get into that. I certainly have my criticisms of Jalen Hurts in this game, which is a lot. But, and I do think, driving home from doing Felger and Mass today, I think Felger said at some point, and I think it's valid, and I think it's valid in this conversation with Mac Jones, because with Brady, I was one of the first guys to be like, nobody's getting open, or he's got a crappy offensive line, and that's why X, Y, and Z. But I do think it's a worthy discussion that, in this post Brady era and going forward, and this isn't quite Mac specific, but Bill's going to have to decide if he's the guy going forward or what have you. But I just think that Bill holds certain beliefs in terms of what he needs to give a quarterback for the team to be successful. And it's sort of what we've talked about before, but I just think they're outdated. I think that, unless you have an elite Brady, Mahomes, Burrow, Herbert, what have you, some elite quarterback, it's either the elite quarterback and you can, all right, because I'm paying him a lot of money, I get by with, all right, maybe my offensive line isn't great, but we figure out a way around it. Or maybe I give him one really good weapon, but he's got to figure out how to make everything else work. I just think the way he's doing it with Mac being not elite, and we'll see ultimately, they could have the offensive line and the running game to support him. I think that's the plan going forward. It could happen. If they get guys back, I certainly leave that on the table, that they could have one of the better offensive lines in the league. I've said that consistently. But, and then you get into the weapons. Yeah, if he had Devontae Parker back, but that's part of the thing with Devontae Parker, is that he's not always out there. I just think that, I think that Bill's trying to middle things on offense, where he doesn't have the great quarterback, but he's not giving him great line, great weapons. It's got to be one or the other. And if it's not, then I don't think you have anything. And so, I just wonder if going forward they have enough. But I'm not, again, it's week one. I'm not making any judgments. It's just something that I have an eye on. And I do think that Mac, at a certain point in time, when they get the offensive line back, when his weapons are more consistent, he's worked with them more. What I really like about this is now Bill O'Brien has real film to go off of with Mac to make corrections and going forward, because I know Mac is smart and he'll take care of that. I just, at a certain point in time this year, Mac is going to have to win a game like that, or multiple games like that. And we've talked about it before. You change offensive schemes, you bring new players in like Juju Smith-Schuster, and you're doing stuff on the offensive line. That stuff takes time. Look at Tom Brady when he went to Tampa, 7-5. They were sort of in and out of the playoffs at that point. Then they got fire. The same thing is going to have to happen this year to Mac Jones. They have to stop losing games like Sunday, and they got to start winning them. And Mac is included in that big time.
I wouldn't disagree. Of course, he's part of it. Again, I don't go blind with the negative plays. I brought them up. I would say, though, ultimately, I think he played well enough to win on Sunday. And if you had one of the four big plays that backfired, and people could say, well, if one of his negative plays, I understand. But on balance, again, I thought he played a good football game. Greg said he was really good. And so when your defense plays that way and your quarterback is really good on that day, you should win the damn game. The reason why they didn't win the game is because, again, in the most crucial moments when you had to have it, I think your receivers let you down a lot more than Mac Jones let you down. And those throws and plays that you had to have, Mac made them. He made 3 big plays, 3 big throws. So I just, I think it's all part of it. And I wouldn't have much of an issue with it, but it's like Mac is always the focal point, Greg. And you know this, if you listen to radio, if you watch on TV, because he's the quarterback, right? He gets the women and all the guys want to be him and blah, 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 blah. They get the credit when they win. They get the, they get the criticism when they lose. That's how this game is played by many. But again, I just think he played well enough on Sunday. He made the plays when they needed him to make the plays in that fourth quarter. And his teammates did not help him out. His receivers did not help him out.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. And actually, when you said I think he played well enough to win, I'm not sure about that. I mean, maybe. I haven't really given it a lot of thought. Like, I'm not going to totally disregard it. But the thought that I had was, and I don't know how you're going to react to this, but if they had DeAndre Hopkins at X, and they had Jacoby Myers instead of Juju Smith-Schuster in this game, I think they win. Which backs up your argument.
I said it on my podcast today. By the way, Nick Cattle's podcast. Check it out daily. I said it today though. I absolutely agree with you, Greg. Like, if you look at, first of all, Booty's not playing 55 snaps if Hopkins is out there. You don't have to rely on Juju. You don't have to rely on Kendrick Bourne to make, every big play. And you can't tell me with Hopkins and his resume, he had, I think, 7 catches for like 60 plus yards on Sunday.
Totally garbage quarterback.
Yeah. Ryan Tannehill, I think, had under a 30 QB rating.
Yeah.
Passer rating on Sunday, just god awful. And Derrick Henry didn't get a lot of touches. It was a brutal offensive game by Tennessee. Nick Folk was the star, not surprising. He had 5 freaking field goals. But Hopkins, like, with his resume, you can't tell me that on 4th and 3, he wouldn't run the right route, especially with the history he has with O'Brien, and give them a better chance to make a play. You can't tell me that on 3rd and 12, that if Mac delivers the same football to DeAndre Hopkins that he delivered to Kendrick Bourne, you can't tell me that Hopkins has a better chance of bringing that football in. You can't tell me the 2 plays to Kayshon Boutte when he couldn't get his feet in bounds, that Hopkins wouldn't be able to get his damn feet in bounds. So I agree with you.
Just imagine, at the end of this game, them trying to, upset the Eagles at home. If they had DeAndre Hopkins at the X boundary, they had Jacoby Myers in the slot and Hunter Henry at tight end with Kendrick Bourne as sort of like a 4th option. That's tough to defend. And to me, that's a Bill thing. This is, one of our criticisms the whole summer. Like, have you done enough? And I just don't think he does enough for the offense. And meanwhile, on defense, the 3 first-round picks or 3 top picks are showing out. Be nice to get one of those on offense. Maybe that would have helped out. But it's a Bill thing, not a Mac thing. So we'll see. I mean, look, Bill has the balance of the season to prove us wrong. That the way he constructs this team, even though it looks out of step with the rest of the NFL, can still win in the NFL. He has the balance of the season to prove that. I don't think it's going to happen. I thought game 1 was evidence of that, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, I agree with you. This season, we've said it throughout the last few months, this is all on Belichick. He's trying to prove to the football world that he can do it his way versus how the game has evolved. And it's going to be proven whether he's right or wrong on that. And, this is why you and I talked about it at the time, and we'll get into Bill O'Brien and the defense in a minute, but this is why we talked about the Hopkins stuff and why I was infuriated by it, because as we mentioned, margin of error. This team has a very minute margin of error, and we talked, like, none of this is surprising. Devontae Parker hasn't played a full season since 2019. Juju Smith-Schuster has had a long injury history, including just having surgery this offseason, apparently, according to Juju. Like, it's not surprising that 2 of your top 3 receivers are banged up and not really producing right out of the gates. And so that's why you go out and you get a Hopkins. Bill O'Brien didn't have DeAndre Hopkins offensively on Sunday, but what'd you make of Billy O'Brien's return to New England against the Eagles on Sunday?
I thought it was really good, and I'm not going to get into comparing him to, what happened last year or whatever. Just, on judgment, I thought that he had a very sound plan. Mac Jones, at the end of the day, I think he was like third or fourth lowest time to pass in the league this week. Depth of target wasn't very big. You look at his quarterback chart, and there's a lot of stuff within the 5 yards around the line of scrimmage. But that's just what you got to do when you have a complete mismatch of weight class up front between the Patriots offensive line and the Eagles defensive line, which was as advertised. Pretty much. Jalen Carter was awesome. Fletcher Cox was awesome. Jordan Davis was awesome. And Hassan Reddick. And, but he did a good job. They did a good job minimizing that. I thought they took the appropriate amount of shot plays and got it protected. One that I'm sure Mac Jones would love to have back was the underthrown ball to Kendrick Bourne down the right sideline that Darius Slay broke up. It was underthrown. The play was there. Could have been a touchdown. Mac put too much air under it. that's one of those plays that you talk about, like, to win a game like that, you got to hit those plays. And, so I thought it was about as expected. That they couldn't run the ball at all surprised me a little bit. I don't know if Stevenson was under the weather, but I did not think he looked good as a running back. He was much more indecisive than I've seen him before. I thought Ezekiel Elliott was the quote unquote better running back in this game. The only real, and I'm sure the coaches made these decisions based on what they see in practice, and I'm sure they had a reason for doing this. But I just don't understand why so much time for Kayshon Boutte. Why not move Kendrick Bourne over there? Might be because they don't think Kendrick can handle it. That's very possible, given that he's still having a plethora of route running issues to this day, especially on Sunday, and it's the reason why he doesn't play more than he does. And why not put Demario Douglas in the Kendrick Bourne, spot? And I didn't love how much Ezekiel Elliott was sort of used in the quick game. Like, Ty Montgomery is fast. Demario Douglas is fast. Like, Zeke did okay, but, it just goes to further the notion that the Patriots are not fast enough, and they have the ability to get faster, and they just decide not to do it. But overall, I really liked what I saw out of Billy. And I'm optimistic that, get the line healthy, give him a running game. Yeah, he's going to cook up some nice stuff.
All right, we'll continue thoughts on Bill O'Brien in this offense. But first, let's talk to you about Factor Meals, factormeals.com/Bedard50. Use code Bedard50 to get 50% off.
With the busy fall season already in swing, you might be looking for wholesome, convenient meals for jam-packed days. Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit, can help fuel you up fast with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. You'll save time, eat well, and stay on track with your healthy lifestyle. I gotta say, one note on this. The delivery process that they do is unbelievable. First of all, I got an email saying, be on the lookout for it when it was delivered. You go out there, you open it up, it's this little cooler with 3 freezer packs inside. The freezer packs hadn't even melted. It was ready to go. You could tell that it was fresh. These guys know what they're doing. Too busy to cook this fall, but want to make sure you're eating well. With Factor, skip the extra trip to the grocery store and the chopping, the prepping, the cleaning too, while still getting flavor and nutritional quality you need. Factor's never frozen fresh meals are ready in just 2 minutes. So all you have to do is heat and enjoy and get back to crushing your goals. I loved, this was my favorite one, loaded bacon shredded chicken with sauteed spinach, green beans, and ranch sour cream. This only has 650 calories. I got the keto option to keep with my diet. There are so many options over there. Basically anything you want to do in terms of dietary restrictions, they can do it. You got to check it out. Head to factormeals.com/Bedard50 and use code 50 to get 50% off. That's code Bedard50, BEDARD 50 at factormeals.com/Bedard50 to get 50% off. Got to give it a try. That's a great deal. Give it one try, and I'm telling you, you're going to be won over. Make sure you check them out at factormeals.com/Bedard50.
Greg, my thoughts on Bill O'Brien is just the overall operation mostly worked, right? I mean, it looked like an NFL offense, which was nice to see. And I agree with you. You said earlier, Matt kind of got his confidence rolling a little bit in that second quarter. And I thought it was really telling after that first quarter that Matt came back in the second quarter and played as well as he did, because I don't think we see that last year. And I think that's not only an offensive coordinator, offensive staff problem, but I do think that was a Mac problem last year. And he's talked about it. He got down on himself. He got too emotional, all that stuff. He was able to mostly tuck that aside and, really kind of battle the adversity early in this game, which was nice to see. And I think some of that is the belief he has in Bill O'Brien that he did not have in that staff last year. I thought, O'Brien made some good adjustments. He ran a number of bunch formations, which worked and created separation for parts of this game. That was a factor, especially in the second quarter. And I really think, look, it's similar to Mac, where like if you're looking at this offense overall and you're saying to yourself, like, you have no run game, I think people are overlooking that. This offense on Sunday was one-dimensional against one of the best defenses in the league last year and against arguably the best pass rush this season. Now, of course, we got to play the year out. But if you're predicting and you're projecting what this defense is going to do, they knew that they couldn't run the ball. Everybody knew it. I knew it. You knew it, Greg. Everybody knew it. The Patriots could not run the ball on Sunday. And so a one-dimensional offense, and they still, I still thought that the plays were there to be made, which I think says a lot about Bill O'Brien. Given the lack of the run game and all the questions that I brought up with Mac, the same exists for Bill O'Brien. And the plays were there. Like, I know we don't want to do it too often because it's unfair to Matt Patricia. Greg and I have said it before. That was a Belichick problem. Patricia, no-win situation for that guy. But imagine all those circumstances happening last year to this team against Philadelphia. Do they even score 6 points? Do they even have a chance to score a touchdown at any point in that game? So I think that says a lot about O'Brien. I will say this, though. I don't know about you, but I hated – oh, and by the way, no run game also means that you're not going to use the play action nearly as much. And I think they would love to run the football and use play action this year.
Yep.
I did not like the 3rd and 3 play call to Stevenson, which led to the 4th and 3. And I understand that Belichick obviously was committed, I think, going for it on 4th and 3 and likely told O'Brien, and that's why they ran the play on 3rd and 3. Still hated it because you haven't been able to run the football all day and you can't run between the tackles. So that was pretty much just punting on that 3rd down. That was not good. I did not like that play call at all. I didn't like it in the moment. I hate it even more now. And also, Greg, your thoughts. There was a late screen, I think, to Stevenson. I think it was like on 3rd and long or something that I hated.
Hated it. Oh my God. Like, yeah, it was 3rd and 13 with 51 seconds left.
Oh God.
And they ran. Now, I don't know if it was because the Stevenson screen worked earlier, but that was just the Eagles are defending at that point, they're defending the end zone, that's all they're worried about. So they're going to be covering the middle field in the zone. Like, so I don't understand. I hated that play call. I don't complain about many play calls, and I thought Billy was on point for much of this game. But that play, man, I'm sure he'd like to have that play back.
Yeah, and it's look, again, it's a couple of plays here and there, but I thought overall I don't have much to complain about with Bill O'Brien on Sunday. All right, let's jump to the defensive side here. We still got 3 up, 3 down, and I have an overall thought on this game. But just your thoughts, again, from 30,000 feet, Greg, your thoughts on the defense and what you saw.
Okay. So just so nobody gets this twisted, this was one of the best game plans that I've seen the Patriots put out in the regular season. It was like a Super Bowl game, when you have a couple of weeks to prepare. This is not a surprise. This is something we've talked about a lot, and I expected the Patriots defense to play well in this game. I expected them to have a great plan for this Eagles team, which is you do not want to see this team in week 10 when you have like 2 days to game plan and 3 practice days. The Patriots have used multiple practices. They used the Green Bay Packers preseason game as to prepare for this game. And kudos to all involved. They did everything well. It was on point. The plan was extremely sound. They showed some really nice looks, a few new ones. They really bottled up. They didn't let the Eagles have any big plays at all in this game. So, kudos to them. There's a couple of caveats that I have to throw in on this. Number one, I do think that the weather early and also even bigger, the 16-0 score factored into how the Eagles played offense. It was almost like they were like, you know what, we were going to bring out some new stuff, but the Patriots aren't doing anything on offense. We might win this game 30-0. Let's keep everything in our back pocket and let's just play the game. Sort of like the Bengals last year when they were up 22-0. I think that the Eagles were not prepared for this game at all to play. I don't think their offensive line was ready. If you're critical of the way the Patriots handled the preseason and training camp, the Eagles were even worse. They barely practiced at all. They practiced for like an hour and a half, talking to Jeff McClain last week. None of the starters played in the preseason, and boy, did it look like it, to the point where Nick Sirianni, one of the first things he said after watching the film on Monday to reporters was, yeah, we're going to play people next year, because I'm sure he saw the same film that I did, and he was just like, we stink. I mean, look, they stunk, and especially Jalen Hurts. I haven't seen a lot of him. I've just seen highlights, and I saw, how they cooked last year, and, he had a great Super Bowl and all that stuff. So I don't know what he does week to week, but he was awful in this game. Now, yes, did the Patriots factor into it? Yes, some. But, for example, I had him for 14 bad reads in running and passing. And I'm not talking about, so basically when you're running a scheme like they run, a lot of it is just simple math. Like, all right, how many defenders are over here? How many receivers, running backs, and tight ends do I have in here? Where do I have the numbers advantage? And then I go from there. I play to my advantage. I can't tell you, Nick, how many times he went counter to that. And I don't know why he did that. I'm sure a lot of people out there are being like, Bedard, you're just a hater, blah, blah, blah. You can't say anything nice about the Patriots. Like, trust me, if it was the Patriots, if the Patriots were changing the math after the snap all the time, I would tell you that. And I would have been like, they screwed with Jalen Hurts all day, and he could not figure it out. That's not what went on, to the point where I asked somebody, I don't want to name him and out him, because I don't know what he's going to say about this publicly. I'll just give him a chance to do it. But somebody who watches Jalen Hurts all the time, who watches the Eagles every week for what he does and is well respected in his position, I called him up and I asked him, I said, so what'd you think of Hurts in this game? And even before I gave my opinion on it, he said he was awful in this game. It looked like he was playing his first game as a rookie quarterback. So, I don't know what to tell you. The Patriots are damn good. Their defensive line, as advertised. I thought Juwan Bentley was awesome in this game at the second level. I thought the safeties were awesome in this game. I thought the rookies really showed well in this game. And the Patriots covered. They had zero mental lapses in this game. Not many blown assignments or blown gaps. Kudos to them. They executed great. But I do think that the Eagles were not prepared. Jalen Hurts was not prepared for this game. And I assume they're going to be better from this after seeing the film. But I was very underwhelmed by the Eagles. I don't want to, short the Patriots for credit, because they did what they should have done in this game. And, but ultimately how good they are, we'll see. Do it against the Dolphins. Do it against the Cowboys. Then we're talking. But, obviously, they did a great job in this game. I just don't know how much was them. I think a little bit more of it was Jalen Hurts and the Eagles.
All right, we'll continue the conversation, but first, let's talk about our friends at OddsR.
What if there was an app that used AI and machine learning to suggest smart sports bets? There is, and it's called OddsR. It is a mobile app you need to know what bets of the day are smart ones. Download the app, sign up for an account, and let the latest data analysis guide you through today's point spreads, money lines, and over-unders. I just did it. It's easy. If you see green, that's a smart bet. If you see yellow, you're on your own. If you see red, don't do it. OddsR doesn't take your bet, it makes you better at it. With OddsR on your mobile phone, you're a tap away from making a smart play. It's smart betting made simple. Find OddsR app in the App Store or on Google Play. Get a 2 free week trial. It's just $10 a month after that. But hey, listen to that. That's for the usual people, the normal people. Listeners to this podcast, the Greg Bedard Patriots Podcast, you actually get a special deal. Get your first 30 days of the app free. Just go to OddsR, ODDSR.com/Bedard to download the app. That's OddsR.com/Bedard. 30 days of smarter betting free. We'd call that a winning bet. The casinos and sportsbook want you to bet. OddsR wants you to win. Go get it.
All right. So, watching this game defensively, Greg, and I haven't watched the all 22 and stuff like you have. And what I would say is it's a mixture of both. It's just like every conversation we have. People want to, just kind of reduce things to like one or two reasons why this team won, that team lost. So what I would say is Jalen Hurts didn't play well. I would say that, the Eagles were absolutely not ready for this game at a level that they should have been. And I do think it's because of how Nick Sirianni went along in the preseason and just didn't really do much with his football team. But here's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at a defense that against mobile quarterbacks, including Mitchell freaking Trubisky, couldn't stop a runny nose. They couldn't get out of their own way. So even if Jalen Hurts didn't play well, I am feeling pretty good about how this defense was able to deal with just the athleticism and skill level of this Eagles team. Because even if they weren't playing great football, in Patriots prior years, defenses post Brady, when you would see this slow defense, Greg and I have been talking about this, how slow they were. It was just excruciating to watch this team against quarterbacks like Hurts, like Josh Allen, like Justin Fields. They had no chance to do anything. So watching it on Sunday, I do feel pretty good about this team's defense and its overall speed. I do think they have a lot more athleticism now that they've kind of rebuilt this thing. And I think that gives them a much better chance to handle quarterbacks that have driven them crazy in the past few years. So that's good. You and I talked about the pass rush. Pass rush was there. This is one of the best offensive lines in football, if not the best offensive line. Were they ready? I don't know. But hey, man, by the middle of the second quarter, you got a bunch of studs up there. They better be ready at that point. I can't blame Sirianni for everything. These guys are professionals. Like, get your ass in line if you weren't playing great. They got a really good offensive line. Matthew Judon had 6 pressures. Uche, Barmore, and Keon White each had 4 pressures. I mean, you look at the pass rush win rate of defensive tackles. I think going into Sunday night or last night's game, one of the two, Barmore was 3rd in the league for defensive tackles at pass rush win rate, that statistic, that analytic. So the pass rush was there. I agree with you, Greg, about the rookies. Again, Keon White flashed when he was out there. Christian Gonzalez played well. I mean, he limited A.J. Brown to under 80 yards, just under 80 yards with like 79. But Smith and A.J. Brown didn't murder you, which, rookie, first game, could happen. And that didn't happen. And another thing that stood out to me, Greg, I thought they tackled incredibly well in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
I thought, especially the defensive backs coming downhill, Gonzalez did it a couple times. And look, as I've said with Mac, who, by the way, I graded a B- in case people thought I went over the top with him earlier. I gave him a B-. Greg shook his head. It was a fair grade. But, Miles Bryant, who I've gone after a little bit, and he's bugged me at times. I thought he played well, and I thought he made a couple of tackles. One, I don't know if it was on Smith. I think it was on Smith, but he came up and he wrapped him, and he just stopped him in his tracks and almost picked him up and carried him back 2 yards. I thought the Patriots tackled really well, which again is something, Greg, that we haven't always seen against some of these teams that are really athletic with really good skill position players. And I thought they brought that in spades on Sunday.
Yeah. Nick, one thing I wanted to point out real quick. So, two plays in particular stand out to me in terms of Jalen Hurts and his issues in this game and sort of the tug and pull between, was it the Patriots or Jalen Hurts? So, remember the deep pass into the end zone where Marte Mapu and Gonzalez were there?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that play and Tony Romo did well to point out that Dallas Goedert was wide open underneath. Like that play, while the Patriots did show something pre and post snap a little bit, still it wasn't that exotic where the quarterback knows it's cover 3. And basically the whole route design, so you have the over route and then you have the under route with Goddard and the receivers going in the end zone. And the whole point is to put Gonzalez in a bind. If he goes with the vertical route, which is really just supposed to be passed off to Marte Mapu, then you throw underneath. If he stays underneath on the tight end, then you go up top one-on-one. He went up top. Dallas Goedert is wide open underneath. And I don't it's a basic play. Jalen Hurts wasn't under any duress at all, and he just chucked it in the end zone. Then there was the play where Tony Romo was like, "Oh, Jim, I've never seen this before," where it's the Patriots came with all-out blitz, but then they played quarters behind it instead of man-to-man. It was definitely a wrinkle, definitely an awesome play. But the problem with that play was Jalen Hurts took too long to throw it to A.J. Brown, which allowed Miles Bryant to come up and take A.J. Brown's legs from under him. A good quarterback sees it coming, knows he has this guy. He sees all these defenders back. He knows he has A.J. Brown coming on the slant. He just hits his back foot, boom, gives it to A.J. Brown. That allows him to turn up the field, and he might truck people and go 60 yards for a touchdown. But because Jalen Hurts, for whatever reason, wasn't on top of his game, he threw it way too late, and the Patriots, made a really good play to force the Eagles to punt. So I just wanted to point out, just give people 2 examples so they don't think I'm completely crazy.
Yeah, I don't think people think you're completely crazy. Maybe somewhat crazy, not completely.
Yeah.
But look, what I would say overall, again, if this defense is as fast and as athletic as it looked this past week, I feel good. Yep. If this pass rush continues to do what it did on Sunday, maybe not as good consistently throughout the entirety of a game, but if they can have that pass rush, then fantastic. And both you and I have been high on the pass rush. If you've got the rookies getting better, which they should, it was only week 1. If Keon White and Christian Gonzalez and Marte Mapu develop over the next 5 or 6 weeks, and all of a sudden in the middle of the year, we're talking about, 3 guys who are absolute, I don't know if I'd say studs, but at least can change the game and impact the game in a positive way. I feel good. If they can deal with mobile quarterbacks like they dealt with, I feel pretty good. So we'll see if they continue that. I think for them, it was a major test. They passed that test. Some had to do certainly with Jalen Hurts and Philly not being ready to play, which certainly is not a good idea when you're actually playing a game that counts. All right, 3 up, 3 down, fast-paced, lightning round edition of it. Greg, you're 3 up from this game.
David Andrews was awesome in this game. Didn't have one negative play for him. Keon White was terrific, and he's pushing to play a lot more over Dietrich Wise. And while Hunter Henry and Mac Jones were nominated for the final spot, Jawan Bentley got the third one for me. I just thought he was really good, especially in the first half, sort of thwarting the Eagles' run game. I thought he was really good.
I'll give some love to Miles Bryant. I gave him some love earlier, but, PFF had him ranked as their best cover corner of the day. And I know PFF's rankings and ratings and all of that stuff and grades can fluctuate, but I thought Bryant played pretty well in a spot. John Jones, given how he hasn't really played a ton, I thought he played well enough, and he's going to have a big role, I would think, this weekend against Tyreek Hill. And I agree with, Keon White. I just thought he was a game changer. And every time that guy's been on the field, preseason, training camp, the game that counts, he makes plays. And Greg, I agree with you. I think, coaches, here's what I would say. And look, the coaches have forgotten a hell of a lot more than I'll ever learn about the game of football. But I'd like to see Keon White get more snaps, and I'd like to see Demario Douglas get more than 33 snaps. I think those two rookies, they can impact the game at a significant level. So I like to see, I'm not saying play them 85% of the time, but I would like to see those two guys as time goes on get more snaps. All right, you're 3 down.
Kayshon Boutte.
Stay in bounds.
Stay in bounds, and just not a lot out there. Juju Smith-Schuster had a drop, bad route on 4th and 3. Talk about no juice. He's got nothing off the line, Juju Sanu. And then third, I just lumped in Mafi So and Calvin Anderson together. I had them. They gave up 17 of the 20 pressures that I had, half the stuff runs. Now, did I expect them to be world beaters against the best line in the league? No, but at the end of the day, they were not good in this game.
I'll throw Zeke in there. Look, not a ton of touches. You can't fumble the football. Stevenson wasn't great. Maybe I just do the whole running back tandem. Neither guy was exceptional in this game. Some of that had to do with the offensive line, which I thought was overrated by some people. They gave up a ton of pressure. And look, it wasn't a train wreck. And I think that's why people felt better about the O-line because, when you walk in, you don't have Strange and Owenu. You're thinking, oh my God, Mac's going to get sacked 8 to 10 times. And this is going to be a bloodbath. They gave up a lot of pressure. And I thought Bill O'Brien did a great job with his play calls and utilizing the quick pass game to kind of combat that. And I thought, again, Mac did a good job facing that pressure on balance. He wasn't perfect, far from perfect, B- again, but I thought he did a good job against the pressure on a number of plays. All right. 4th down decisions by Bill Belichick. Agree, disagree. There was the 4th and 3. There was the 4th and 17. And then there's 3, right? 4th and 8, 4th and 3, and then 4th and 17, Greg. How'd you feel about those?
4th and 8, I was fine with. I thought that he was going to go for it.
Me too.
I was saying to myself in the press box, I was like, he's going to, this is 2 down territory now, especially with the rookie kicker and all that. And 4th and 3, I didn't have a problem with. They had not been down there. So this was like 9 minutes left in the game. The last time they had done anything on offense was the end of the first half when they scored a touchdown. And I didn't know when they were going to get down there again. And you didn't know, with the Eagles and their ability, their offensive line and Jalen Hurts in the running game, they easily could have kept the ball for the last 8 minutes of the game. And yes, you could say the Patriots did a great job on defense and they were holding them down the whole game. At a certain point, the law of averages comes out. And Bill knows that as well as anybody. Yeah, we've done a really good job of the Eagles at this point. But we need a freaking touchdown. We're not winning this game with a bunch of field goals. And I don't know if we can drive the field again against these guys with this offensive line. And, they ended up having 80 plays on offense in this game for a lot of guys who haven't played worth very many snaps at all. I'm sure they were all dead tired after the game. So the 4th and 3 play, I had no problem with. Juju, run the freaking right route, and they would have converted it. And then 4th and 17, that was stupid. Just punt the ball. You got all 3 timeouts left, a 2-minute warning. I don't care. Take a delay game pen. I don't know how much field position. Just punt the ball. You're not going to convert 4th and 17 with freaking Kayshon Boutte and half a leg Juju Sanu and a bunch of tight ends and guys who don't know where to run the right routes. Just punt the freaking ball.
The 4th and 17 made absolutely 0 sense. It was a 4th and 12, and I'm going, oh boy, they're going for it. That didn't make much sense to me. I didn't love the 4th and 12. And then a delay of game happened. I don't know if that was O'Brien taking a while. I have to believe it's mostly on Mac because O'Brien's been an OC forever. Maybe something was off with the communication. I have no idea, but I'll put that on Mac. You get a delay of game. And I'm thinking 4th and 17. It was well, now maybe Bill will have second thoughts. And maybe
that's what I thought.
And he was like, we're going for it, baby. What the hell are we doing? Over 2 minutes left, all 3 timeouts. What in the world? What the hell? I would also say the 4th and 3, my gut instinct, my initial reaction was like, okay, I get it. You need a touchdown. Even if you kick a field goal, you still need a touchdown to win this game. But then the more I thought about it and the more I looked at things, you had 9.5 minutes left. The longest drive for the Eagles all day was 61 yards. That was their first drive of the game. That was the longest drive they had. The longest drive they had all game was 61 yards. It's the first drive of the game, which resulted in a field goal. Their only touchdown drive was 26 yards off of the Zeke fumble. They had not moved the ball hardly at all that game. I saw a stat from Warren Sharp today. Patriots had the third highest 3-and-out percentage as a defense on Sunday. Eagles were doing nothing offensively. And I would push back on the Patriots. They weren't moving the ball. Look, again, circumstances killed them. If Booty keeps his feet in bounds, that drive continues. They're well into Philadelphia territory. They're feeling good about themselves. If Belichick, kicks a field goal, then we're talking about how they were able to score. If, the Hunter Henry holding call, was it on Henry? I don't know. Some people, I know Phil Perry said it might have been on Pharaoh Brown or whatever. That Hunter Henry call was garbage. They were about to, they're in perfect position to possibly score a touchdown or at least get 3 points. You get the holding call, and then you got another penalty the holding call, I think it was. And then you have the weird screen pass to Pop Douglas. It wasn't a great throw by Mack. He loses 3 yards, but they're sitting there on the doorstep thinking red zone. That holding call just completely it hits a brick wall, stalls the drive. So as I said earlier, I thought the plays were there to be made. I thought Bill O'Brien called a good game, and 9.5 minutes left. I would have kicked the field goal and taken the points. One thing I would just say overall is I don't want to get into a huge conversation about this. I'm sure you don't want to, and we're long anyway, and I'm hopeful that people are loving the content here. I'm not going to get into the moral victory thing. Again, I vented today on my show. I vented on the moral victory thing, which I think is a sleight of hand by the media around here that I don't love. I think some of it's disingenuous. You can't tell me for the entire Patriots great run that we're going to talk about bad stuff after a great win, because what else are we going to do? We got a job to do, blah, 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 right? That was the stance. When the Patriots were doing nothing but winning, it was, well, we have to pick apart these games and we have to find the negatives, because what else are we going to do? Just sit here and kiss their ass? And now when they're not a very good team, you're not supposed to take any good out of a loss. I do think you can find positives in a loss. Like, you can't tell me the Patriots defense wasn't a positive on Sunday. But ultimately, undeniable fact is what Greg brought up earlier on this pod, which is with Brady and with Mac Jones and Cam Newton, they've been unable to win these games late, and they've lost a bunch of close games. That's an undeniable fact. But this is what I'll say. I'm throwing last year out. Yeah, I said it. I'm throwing last year out. I'm not going to sit there and hold last year against Mac Jones in this. I'm just not. He was dealt an awful hand. So as Greg and I have talked about, I've been consistent about this. This is the year that Mac has to prove himself. Last year to me is just a waste. Bill Belichick wasted Mac Jones' sophomore season. Fact. Okay. So here's what I'll say. Yes, Sunday looked a lot like a lot of these other games. 22 doesn't matter much to me. I don't think they had the coaching staff to win those kinds of games. I just don't. They were not going to put the players in position to win those games. They just weren't going to, in my eyes, my opinion. So when I look at this game, I say to myself, I'm going to give these guys a chance. And I don't think it's worth talking about moral victories right after a game in week 1, because we won't know if this is a moral victory until like week 9 or 10. If Sunday's game built momentum and the rookies develop and play better, and Mac has more confidence because of Sunday, and the defense not only proves that it can stop a mobile quarterback who stunk on Sunday, according to Greg and Jalen Hurts, but can actually, stop other mobile quarterbacks, then we'll look back at week 1 and say, that was an indicator. That was an indicator that this team was going to figure things out after 5 or 6 games, and they were going to be better than we thought. Or we'll look back at week 1 and say, it was just like all the other games, And they did that the rest of the year like they've done the last 3 years with Mac Jones. And now we've got to kind of reset everything. And it's not just last year in the staff, Greg. I want people to appreciate this before we go. The Patriots played 9 rookies on Sunday. That's a lot. Breaking news. And they relied on, it wasn't like they played those guys a few snaps. Mapu didn't play a ton. I think he played 9 snaps. But when you look at Booty, Douglas, Mafi, White, somewhat 25 snaps or so, Christian Gonzalez playing every snap. A lot of people like these rookies. If they develop and get better, I think you look back and you say, yeah, that was, they were depending on a lot of young dudes because there were some absences and Juju let them down and other stuff happened, right? So I just think this year they do deserve a little bit of leeway here, given the context and the circumstances. Now, if they stink and they continue to lose games like this, I'll be as frustrated as anybody else. But I think off of that game, Greg started this saying, feel a little bit at least optimistic or encouraged by the performance. And so would I. And ultimately, let's see how how that leads into Miami on Sunday night and whether or not it meant anything or they go out there and get their doors blown off by Tua Tagovailoa. So that's how I feel. Greg and I will have a ton on the Dolphins game coming up in a couple of days.
Just one thing, just let me have the final word on this.
Sure.
I'll only say this. It's only a moral victory if you follow it up the next week or soon. So
yes,
that could have been a building block because, I know Tommy Curran loves talking about moral victories. He's done it the past couple of years. It hasn't worked out for them. But, if they go out and they beat the Dolphins at home on Sunday night, which they kind of need to do, even with the whole Jets thing, which we didn't even talk about with Rodgers, and now you can give them those 2 games against Zach Wilson. They can't play another close game and lose to the Dolphins on Sunday. They need to win. If this was a true moral victory, which I believe in, you have to follow it up. So they need to go out, they need to beat the Dolphins, and they need to play toe-to-toe with the Dallas in week 4, and then maybe we can talk about some things.
Check Greg and Mike Giardi over at BSJ, $50 for the year, tag teaming on the Patriots coverage. It's fantastic. I'm doing the Nick Cattle Show daily pod now, Monday through Friday, 30 minutes a day, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast. That's happening again, Nick Cattle Show. Appreciate everybody helping me out with that. And I would like to tell everybody else that FanDuel is fantastic stuff. Played over the weekend. Mahomes screwed me on Thursday night. Well, actually, Mahomes' receivers screwed me. I had 250. I had 250 plus passing with a touchdown, and that was one of the bets I made. And he had 226 because Kadarius Toney was worse than anything we saw from the Patriots on Sunday. That's for sure. But check out FanDuel, exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network. Sign up now at FanDuel.com/Boston. New customers can now receive $200 in free bonus bets with a $5 bet. Plus, all customers who bet $5 will receive $100 off NFL Sunday ticket via YouTube and YouTube TV. That Sunday ticket offer will end on September 18th. All right, it's been a long one today. Hopefully people enjoyed the coverage and the content. We're back to preview the Dolphins game later this week, and I'm sure we'll touch on Aaron Rodgers as well, at least for a couple of minutes in that pod. But until then, be good, be safe, be healthy.